Michael Jordan paid for a struggling player's wedding, but no one knew until the bride spoke out. The champagne glasses clinked in rhythm with the jazz band playing under the chandelier glow of the Bella Vista estate in California. Laughter echoed from every corner of the luxury venue, and every table had a centerpiece fit for royalty. Some of the guests were celebrities, most were athletes, but all were wondering the same thing: how did Darius Cole, a former NBA benchwarmer no one really remembered, afford a wedding like this? Darius stood near the edge of the marble fountain, his hands slightly shaking as he sipped his water. He wore a custom suit that fit him like it was molded to his frame. Everything looked perfect. But he couldn't stop thinking it all felt borrowed, like the whole day was some dream that didn't belong to him. He scanned the room. Former teammates, ESPN faces, even the current MVP showed up. The place buzzed with high-end charm. But none of this made sense. He hadn't made more than league minimum, and that was years ago. Most of the time, he rode the bench or got shuffled between practice squads. The only thing louder than his hustle was his silence off the court. Emily caught his eye across the room. She smiled, and his chest eased. She was the one thing in his life that always made sense. The reception hadn't even started when someone nudged Darius from behind. It was Coach Vance, one of the assistants from his rookie training camp over a decade ago. "You still grind your teeth when you're nervous?" Vance asked, holding a glass of wine. Darius laughed. "Only when I'm about to do something I don't feel like I earned." "Get used to it," Vance said, clapping him on the back. "You earned more than you think." Darius didn't reply. He just smiled and nodded. But the word stirred something. Something old. Something from that summer in 2003. The memory rose up uninvited, clear as day. It was the middle of July. Rookie training camp. Vegas Heat. Everyone was scrapping for a shot at making the roster. Darius had gone undrafted, didn't have an agent worth anything, and barely scraped together the travel fare to get there. He wasn't the fastest or the tallest. He didn't have a highlight reel. What he had was obsession. That, and knees already threatening to give out. Camp was brutal. Two-a-days, pressure drills, full-court scrimmages. If you weren't limping by lunch, you weren't working hard enough. Darius showed up early and left last. Not to prove anything. Just because that was the only way he knew how to breathe. One afternoon, after a bone-deep scrimmage, he went up for a contested layup. Came down awkward. Something snapped behind his leg. He didn't scream. Didn't wince. Just picked himself up and limped to the sideline. "Hamstrings done," the trainer muttered. That night, the staff told him to sit out the rest of camp. "Come back next year stronger," they said. That was the polite way of cutting someone who had no name. But Darius still showed up the next morning. He wasn't cleared to play, so he stayed on the sideline, rebounding for the guys, shagging loose balls. When the gym emptied, he stayed behind. Wrapped his thigh, shot free throws for an hour. He didn't think anyone noticed. But someone did. Up in the corner bleachers sat a man in a charcoal tracksuit. Quiet. Watching. Michael Jordan. At first, Darius thought it was a hallucination. No one told them MJ would be visiting. He owned part of the team, but this wasn't a press event. He was just there. Alone. No entourage. No cameras. Just watching. Darius kept shooting, pretending he didn't see him. Eventually, he packed up and limped out. The next day, there was a note in his locker. No signature, just a message on folded paper. "You got heart. That matters more than you know. Keep going." Inside the note was an ice pack and a $100 gift card to a diner near the hotel. Darius never told anyone. Later that week, the team finalized their roster. Darius didn't make it. No surprise. He packed up, thanked the staff, and flew back home to Atlanta. That should have been the end. But something lingered. Not the injury. Not the camp. The note. The quiet gesture. It stayed with him long after the flight home. Back in the present, the reception kicked off. The band shifted to a slow song. Emily glided across the floor in her white gown, flawless and glowing. Darius watched her, heart full and heavy. The MC tapped the mic before dinner. The bride would like to say a few words. Emily stepped forward. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked only at Darius. When we started planning this wedding, Darius wanted something small, she said. A few people, backyard vibe, maybe a rented tent. Not because he didn't dream big, but because he spent his whole life carrying others, never asking for anything. People leaned in. Even the servers paused. He didn't want to tell anyone this, but I think it's time. She took a breath. Darius's eyes widened. This wedding, everything you see, was paid for by someone Darius met once. Someone who saw something in him that no one else did. Someone who never asked for recognition. A murmur went through the room. Michael Jordan paid for our wedding. The place went still. No cameras clicked. No applause yet. Just disbelief. He never told anyone, she said. Not even me, until a few months ago when I found an old letter in our closet. A handwritten note. The same handwriting that wrote that first message years ago. Darius looked down, face burning. Emily's voice softened. MJ helped us when we didn't even know it was him. When we were buried in medical bills after our son was born early. When our apartment deposit magically got covered. And now, today. A slow wave of silence swept the room. He didn't do it for the press. He did it because he saw something. He believed in the man I get to marry today. Darius closed his eyes. The crowd didn't cheer. Not yet. There was too much weight in the air. Then someone stood up. It was Coach Vance. Then another teammate. Then the MVP. And then, like dominoes, the whole room rose. No applause. Just a standing silence. Emily stepped down and took Darius's hand. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because somehow, a private moment from a dusty gym in 2003 had just changed everything. And no one had seen it coming. The reception had changed. The energy. The way people looked at Darius. He wasn't just the former benchwarmer anymore. He was the guy Michael Jordan had believed in. The guy MJ had invested in quietly, without a press release or a camera crew. But Darius wasn't glowing from the attention. He looked like he'd just been stripped bare. He'd never wanted it out there. Not because he was ashamed, but because it wasn't meant to be a story. It was something sacred. Something he'd buried deep because he didn't know how to carry it. Still, the secret was out now. Emily didn't apologize. She simply squeezed his hand, grounding him. People started approaching them in waves, former teammates, coaches, even a couple of current players who introduced themselves like he was the legend. All asking the same questions. Did MJ really do that? Why didn't you tell anyone? Darius smiled, nodded, shrugged. He let the buzz swirl around him, saying as little as possible. Then came the quiet part of the night. The meal had been served. The speeches were done. A few couples had started dancing again. Darius slipped out to the balcony, needing air. He leaned on the rail and looked out at the city lights. A voice behind him said, "You still don't like the spotlight." He turned. It was Jerome Banks, his old roommate from training camp. Jerome had made it into the league for 3 solid years before an ACL tear ended everything. He now worked in sports management. "I saw the look on your face when she said it," Jerome continued. "You hated every second of that." Darius chuckled under his breath. It wasn't supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be about her. About us. "You think MJ will mind?" she told people. Darius shook his head. Nah. If he cared about credit, he would have done it all in the open. Jerome pulled out his phone and scrolled for a second. You know there's already a tweet out there? Michael Jordan paid for a former rookie's wedding in full, no one knew for years. It's going viral. Darius didn't respond. You ever talk to him again? Jerome asked. No. Just that one time at camp. And the note. After that, it was like he disappeared. But he didn't. He just stayed hidden while helping. Darius turned back to the city. He didn't help because I was special. He helped because I was desperate. No, Jerome said. He helped because you didn't quit. A few quiet seconds passed between them. Then Jerome added, You ever gonna tell the whole story? Not just what Emily said. But the rest? Darius wasn't sure. He wasn't even sure if anyone would care. Still, he found himself thinking about it. It all started a month after camp. His leg had mostly healed, but the money was gone. No team. No job. He was back home, living in his cousin's basement in East Point. Emily worked nights at a diner and studied during the day. He applied to be a gym janitor. Got rejected. Then he tried retail. Nothing. Finally, a local warehouse hired him for night shifts, moving boxes, restocking, lifting until his back gave out. But he kept going. He wasn't going to let failure stick. Then Emily found out she was pregnant. The joy was real. So was the fear. Their insurance was garbage. The pregnancy was risky. Emily had complications by the 3rd month. Darius tried to get another job, mornings now, but it clashed with the warehouse. He got fired for missing 2 shifts. Then something strange happened. The hospital bills stopped coming. One night, he got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a sealed envelope with a single page inside. It was a hospital account summary with a paid in full stamp. In the corner, a small handwritten "You got more than heart. You've got purpose." Same handwriting. Same pen. Darius stared at it for hours. He never told Emily. Not then. He wanted her to believe things were okay because of him. Pride is a strange thing. It can either make you work harder or bury you in silence. A month before the baby came, their landlord told them they had 2 weeks to leave. New owner. Raising rent. Darius nearly broke down right there in the hallway. The next morning, a lady from a housing office called. "Your new application's been approved," she said. "The deposit's already paid. You can move in Friday." He never even filled out an application. Same week, he got a voicemail from an Atlanta high school. Their varsity assistant coach had just quit mid-season. They'd heard about his work ethic from someone named Mike J. The job wasn't glamorous. But it came with insurance. It came with stability. It came with something to believe in. Years passed. Their son grew. Emily graduated. Darius moved from assistant coach to head coach. He became the kind of mentor he always wished he'd had. He never told his students about the NBA, or training camp, or MJ. He told them about hustle. About showing up. About not letting life decide who you are. But a few months ago, while cleaning the garage, Emily found a box with old letters. The original note from the locker. The envelope from the hospital. A photograph of the training camp roster with Jordan circled in red. She asked about it. He didn't lie. But he didn't say much either. Now, standing on the balcony, Darius felt the weight of all of it coming loose. He had carried that secret like a burden. But maybe it wasn't meant to be hidden forever. Jerome took a sip from his drink and said, "You know what I think? MJ saw a version of himself in you. Not the fame. Not the skill. Just the fight." Darius didn't say anything. Back inside, the music had picked up. Emily was laughing with her friends. Their son, Caleb, danced in the center of the floor, wildly offbeat and proud. Darius stepped back inside. He didn't need cameras. He didn't need attention. But tonight, this moment, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Peace. Not because the world finally knew, but because it no longer mattered if they did. He walked back toward the dance floor. Not a man chasing the past, but one finally ready to live fully in the present. Because sometimes, the greatest assist isn't the one seen on the court. It's the one that saves a life in silence. And Michael Jordan had mastered both. The wedding carried on, but it wasn't the same after Emily's reveal. It wasn't louder. It wasn't flashier. It was warmer. The kind of atmosphere you only get when truth changes a room. People weren't just celebrating a wedding anymore, they were celebrating a story they hadn't expected. A story about something rare, a quiet act of greatness from the man known for being loud on the court. Darius mingled, grateful for the congratulations but eager for the night to wind down. He didn't like the spotlight, never had. Tonight, it had found him anyway. He found Caleb by the dessert table, fingers covered in frosting. The boy grinned, caught red-handed. Darius grabbed a napkin and cleaned him up. "You having fun?" he asked. Caleb nodded. "Are all these people here because you're famous now?" Darius smiled. "Not really. Just got lucky." Caleb blinked. "Because of the guy on the wall in your office?" Darius paused. "What?" "You know. The guy in the picture. The one you always put up high." It hit him. The photo above his desk. Black and white. Jordan mid-flight. Darius had kept it all these years, never saying much about it. He thought his son never paid attention. "Yeah," Darius said. "Him. Is he here?" Before Darius could answer, a man walked through the side door. No spotlight. No announcement. Just a simple step into the room. Some guests noticed, but most didn't. Darius turned slowly. Michael Jordan stood by the back wall in a navy sport coat and black slacks, holding nothing but a cup of water. He wasn't here for the cameras, there weren't any. He wasn't here to be thanked. He was just there. They locked eyes. Jordan gave him the smallest nod. Darius nodded back. He didn't rush over. He didn't make a scene. Instead, he leaned down to Caleb. "Come here," he said. They walked together through the dance floor. It wasn't until they were a few feet away that MJ smiled. "You got tall, Coach Cole." Darius chuckled. "And you got harder to track down." Jordan extended his hand. Darius shook it firmly. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," Darius said. "You weren't supposed to know any of it was me." "My wife's not great at keeping quiet," Darius said, smirking. Jordan looked at Emily across the room. "She did right. This story ain't just about you. It's about both of you. The kid, too." Caleb looked up at him, eyes wide. "Are you the guy who helped my mom and dad?" Jordan leaned down. "Nah, kid. I didn't help them. They helped themselves. I just cleared the lane." Caleb didn't get the metaphor, but nodded anyway. Jordan stood upright. "You ever wonder why?" Darius said nothing. "I was at that camp," MJ continued. "Saw hundreds of guys trying to get in. You were the only one staying after practice when your leg looked like it barely worked. No one told you to. No coach was watching. But I was." He took a sip of his water. "Everyone wants to win when people are watching. But you? You were grinding when no one cared. I saw myself in that. I didn't want the league to break you before life even started." Darius nodded slowly, emotion creeping in. "You changed everything for us." Jordan shook his head. "No, I just gave you chances. You took him. That's all on you." There was a pause. Then Jordan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. "Something I meant to give you years ago," he said. Darius hesitated before taking it. He opened the flap and pulled out a note. The same handwriting. This one said, "When your time comes, don't pay it back. Pay it forward. One day, someone will need a quiet assist." Darius looked up. "You always write like this?" Jordan grinned. "Only when it matters." Emily walked over. She had tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. "Thank you," she said softly. Jordan just nodded. "I'm not staying long," he said. "Didn't want this to be about me. Just wanted to see the guy who didn't quit. And his family." They shook hands one last time. Then Jordan looked at Caleb and gave him a fist bump. "You take care of them," he told the boy. "I will," Caleb said proudly. Jordan left the same way he entered. Quietly. No crowd followed him. No lights chased him. And that was exactly how he wanted it. Later that night, Darius and Emily sat in the courtyard while the cleanup crew cleared tables. Caleb had fallen asleep in his mom's lap, frosting still on his cheek. The stars were out. The music had faded. Darius pulled the note from his pocket again. He read it a second time, then looked at Emily. "You think I'm supposed to do something with this?" She nodded. "You already are. Every time you show up for those kids at the high school. Every time you stay late. Every time you see a kid no one else sees. But maybe it's time to do more," he said. "Start something bigger. A camp. Scholarships. Something for the kids who get left behind." Emily looked at him. "Then let's do it. Together." He leaned back and stared at the sky. He thought about the past. About failure. About hustle. About how one note, one decision, had created a ripple that stretched across years and lives. He'd been the rookie no one remembered. Now, he was the coach everyone could count on. And it wasn't because of fame, or money, or charity. It was because of the belief that grit mattered. That showing up mattered. That real greatness wasn't about highlight reels, it was about who you lift when no one else is watching. He tucked the letter into his jacket and stood. "Come on," he said, lifting Caleb into his arms. "Let's go home." As they walked away from the glowing lights of the venue, there was no applause. No encore. Just quiet. And peace. And the knowledge that somewhere down the line, someone else would need a break, and Darius Cole would be ready to pass it on. Because the greatest players don't just change games. They change lives. And sometimes, they do it without ever asking for credit.